Thanks for listening to the Swearing In podcast, where you'll hear the origin stories of those who chose to serve. So ground your gear, take a seat, and listen up. The Swearing In podcast starts right now.
Chief Master Sergeant Retired Michelle Zayatz, thanks for joining the program, and it's an honor and a privilege to get your story today.
It's an honor and privilege to be here with you, Senior Master Sergeant Smith, retired. I may call you Senior.
Well, sure. Yeah, well, you can't, according to the Black Book. Remember?
I don't care. The Black Book doesn't exist anymore. It's all gone.
Remember when they tried to enforce that? They didn't last very long.
They changed it, though. Now it is allowed.
Oh, they changed it back.
Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
Figures.
So.
Well, it's God, we've known each other since 2000, I think.
In 2000 when you got to the unit.
Yeah, just about then.
So
legendary Sibbers and everybody everywhere else around the state of Colorado. So it's great. I'm glad you finally gave me a call after a year of giving you that card. So thanks for doing this. This is a story that will be fun. You gave us a teaser on it a couple of weeks ago on the Late for Changeover show. So this is going to be interesting. All right.
Okay. All right.
All right. So what was 17-year-old Michelle doing at that time? Were you always interested in the military?
No, I had never considered it. My oldest brother had gone into the Navy. I think it was 76 or 77.
Okay.
While I was still in high school, my oldest brother went into the Navy. My dad had done Air Force back in the 50s, but not a career by any means, just 3 years. Never had I ever dreamed that the military would be an option. So I graduated from high school in June of 81. I was working at Taconic High School in Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
Say the high school again. I'm sorry.
Taconic. It's an Indian name.
Yeah,
because we have a lot of Native American tribal stuff in the New England area. So.
And this
was
out
of
Massachusetts, you said, right?
Right at Western Mass in the Berkshires.
Okay.
Beautiful, beautiful place to grow up. I was the only daughter of 6 children.
Yeah.
That's why I am the way I am today. Thank you very much. And my dad was a firefighter. My mother was a school teacher.
Nice.
So
very good.
We were a pretty decent middle class family. But I was working as a cashier after I graduated from high school. I had no intention of going to college for 2 reasons. Number one, my grades sucked. I wasn't even qualified. I could not even, I could go to a community college. Number 2, my parents couldn't pay, 6 kids, on a firefighter and a teacher's, salary. But I didn't want to go to school. I just sat in a classroom for 12 years. I was done. So I don't know what made me think Army, because at first I was planning Army. In October of 81, I went down to the recruiter station in Pittsfield, where it was just below the most expensive hotel, the Hilton Hotel in Pittsfield. And all the recruiters had the same area. They shared a common area, and then they each had their individual offices.
They didn't come to the high school?
There may have been at the school, but they weren't talking to women. They weren't talking to women. They were only talking to men. So I, like I said, decided to go Army. And
but how did that decision come about? How did you
only because it was different than Air Force and Navy.
But how you were saying you weren't thinking about the military at all, and now all of a sudden you're choosing between branches.
Yeah.
So what changed? What was it?
I never thought about a different branch. My first choice was Army.
But why not? Why go in the military at all?
Because I didn't want to be a cashier the rest of my life. That's all I was doing. I was making $2.35 an hour as a cashier.
Yeah. Right.
With no hopes to manager or nothing like that. And I was in my town, as beautiful as it was very, very, today even, a very depressed area, unless you have a specific skill set. Right. There was a GE plant local, but I had no intention of going to work for GE. I didn't have a degree.
Yeah.
So unless you were in services, teaching, public services, public safety, or GE, you didn't have a job.
Did you talk to your parents about doing it?
No. Not at first. Oh,
okay.
No, I wanted to go and talk to the recruiter first to see.
Find out. Yeah.
And he made it very clear to me very quickly that my options were not with the Army. When I came into the appointment,
Right.
I wasn't in the office 3 minutes, and he said, he got up from across his desk, came over, put his arm around me, and said, "You know what you can do for the Army, honey?" And I'm looking at him like, what? Naive 17-year-old here.
Yeah.
He said, "You can go across the hall and join the Air Force."
Oh man.
And I said, "Oh, chauvinistic pig. I didn't
Sure.
connect."
Right.
So I said, "Sure." And I got up, grabbed my bag, walked across the main area where people were seated, and walked right up to the Air Force recruiter. There's a tech sergeant sitting behind the desk, knocked on the door, and I looked over my shoulder and said, "That guy sent me over here." And the tech sergeant said, "Come on in, miss. Come on in." Immediately he stood up. The Army guy never stood up until he came over to put his arm around me. When I entered his office, he never stood up to shake my hand.
Yeah.
He wanted nothing to do with recruiting a woman, period. So tech sergeant waved to the Army E6. And as I said on your podcast a few weeks ago and at my retirement ceremony, 29 years later, I retired as a Chief Master Sergeant. So there you go, Army recruit. That's for you. He did me a big favor. Big favor.
Right.
Unbeknownst to me, but he did me a great favor. So started the process October of 81. Had to go to the MEPS down at Springfield, Massachusetts. Started the physicals.
Well, now wait a minute. So before you signed, then did you tell your parents?
Oh, I didn't sign till the following February. So as soon as this happened with the recruiter, and the Air Force guy said, "Yes, we need you," that's when I went home. I wasn't 18 yet. I didn't.
You wouldn't have had to have a waiver anyway, right?
Yeah, and I didn't think that they would have any issue. I was graduating from high school. There was no really future for me there.
Yeah.
But my mother she did tell me, she conveyed to me years later, that she was pleased I didn't choose the Army. So it worked out,
Yeah, sure.
But no, as soon as that Air Force recruiter started the preliminary paperwork, no signatures were done until February the following year.
Oh, because you had to. Yeah, right.
Because I had to get to be 18 by November, and then start physicals. They would not sign you if you didn't pass a physical.
Oh, yeah.
They would not. Yep.
Right,
yep.
right.
So, and I had 2 issues that could have kept me out of the service.
Oh, yeah.
One of them was the use of marijuana, which I admitted to on my questionnaire, that I had smoked weed in high school.
Sure.
And
as we all did. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, right. And I had been born with a strange rash on my right leg. But when I was a kid, it was like from my big toe all the way to my hip. But as an adult,
oh, wow,
this big on my knee.
Oh, I got you.
And cold during the cold, and all the doctors ever told my mother was, that's psoriasis. Well, psoriasis, believe it or not, is a service-ending condition. You cannot get into back then. You could not enlist in the Air Force with psoriasis anywhere in your body because you're limited to climates where they can send you.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
It can be impacted by the climate.
Right.
So he said, go back to your original doctor that told you it was psoriasis and have him tell us it's not. And because of the weed, we're going to set you up with a MEPS psychiatrist to talk to you about why you felt it was necessary to smoke pot.
Oh, right? My God. Yeah.
So I went back to my pediatrician, believe it or not, and he looked at it because it had 95% shrunk from when I was an infant. I still have this piece of paper in my medical records. It is now a rash on her right knee. That's it.
Okay. Step 1 complete.
Right, there you go.
Right,
Take it back to the MEPS. That doctor took a look at the paper. He said, okay, that one's done. Now meet with the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And I did. I had a lengthy interview with the psychiatrist. He took all his notes. I still have that in my original record.
Wow.
So having used weed was part of my formal record.
Yeah.
So they cleared me. And then February of 82, went on delayed enlistment. Open general.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Open general. I did not have a job waiting for me. My abs fabs were horrible, but just enough to get in. So I figured, okay, well, I'll throw it, shit to the wind. We'll figure out when I'm going to be after basic training.
Yeah.
And that was February 8th of 82. I raised my right hand, took the oath, and then May 19th of 82. Got on my first airplane ride ever and flew to Lackland.
Wow.
Yep. Flew to San Antonio. Yeah.
So what were you thinking? Were you excited? Were you nervous?
Yes, very excited.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Yeah.
It was a whole new opportunity for me. I have a dear friend of mine. I call her my sister from a different mother, but her mom had always told me, "You're adaptable. You can adapt to any situation," and I did. I adapted, overcame, improvised, whatever you want to call it. In any situation I was put in, I found a way to manage it. I found a way to deal with it, and I found a way to either get over it or move on.
Yeah,
But
of course.
so I was excited, and I was laughable though when you get there, because my recruiter actually was quite honest with me, and he told me the other physical limitation I had was my weight. Believe it or not, I was 30.
Small.
I was 30 pounds heavier when I went to the service.
What? You? Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, 147 pounds, and that's the max for my height.
Okay. Oh yeah, the dreaded weight chart. Yeah.
And he told me it's going to be a struggle because they can roll you back, recycle you, or not let you continue if you don't manage to lose some weight. But what do you do when you're in basic training? You eat and you run, and you develop muscle, and some muscle's heavier than fat. So that was a struggle. But when I got off that bus from the airport, we're all rainbows lining the sidewalk. It's 2:00 in the morning.
Of course.
And they brought us into this building. Yeah, of course. Brought us into this building with 5 or 6 senior airmen all sitting behind desks, and each of us went in, and they verified your enlistment record, your name, so all that stuff, emergency contact, all that stuff. But we had to wait. You couldn't leave when you were done. You had to go back and sit and wait till all 60 trainees. So we're sleeping in the chairs. It's now 4 a.m. And luckily, they were great about this. I have to give them this. They put us back on the bus. They took us to a dining facility outside of the training area. It was not associated with the BMTS, Basic Military Training Squadron. They let us eat, and then they brought us to our dormitories, which was inside the training area.
Okay.
And 3707 was our flight. Was my flight.
Oh yeah.
And they let us stay in our clothes. Obviously, we didn't have uniforms yet. So they assigned us a bunk. They turned off the lights. They said, "You make a peep, you're in trouble. Just shut up until the morning."
Right.
Our team member, who was a woman, they always had to be a female TI or team member in the dorms with us when we were there. Always. Okay. She stayed there. Then no garbage can hood rattling, nothing like that. Just turn the lights on. Yeah. 7:30. They let us sleep in, man. 7:30.
Wow.
And they lined us up, and off we went to get our uniforms. The shots. Remember the shots?
Oh, I do. Yeah, sure. And I've seen them done. Well, I've heard of them done many different ways.
The big pistol guns and blood going down your arm. I mean, they got both arms at the same time, the bastards.
Yeah,
you lined up, and they just one on either side of you. Like,
It was an open bay. Did they section off females from the males or no?
Well, yeah, each floor. So bottom floor
was
the brother
floors.
flight.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Right.
Complete floors. Bottom floor was brother flight. We were sister flight and another brother flight above us.
Oh, yeah.
We were in what was then considered the brand new wings of the Basic Military Training Squadron setup. And believe it or not, my son in 2011, we went down for his graduation from BMTS at Lackland, and he was in the building right adjacent to the one I had been in.
No kidding.
For basic training, yeah. The hubby, when he went in, he was in old World War II barracks somewhere else on Lackland, so he couldn't even associate with the remember, it had 4 main wings.
Yeah.
And you had undercovers where you could go underneath and practice drilling if it was raining.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've seen those.
Well, you did Army basic. I don't know. Did you ever do Air Force basic? You'd probably
No, I never did.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but I have seen those pictures of Lackland. In fact, I've walked underneath those elevated places where they would train when it was raining. So, anybody cry?
Nope.
Really?
Never saw a woman. Never saw a female cry. Never.
No kidding. Wow. Everybody hears a story about somebody crying.
I mean, we had fights. There was a couple of girls that got into it.
Oh yeah.
About 2 weeks in the actual latrine, of which I was latrine queen.
Yeah.
It
Lucky
was my
you.
assignment in basic training was Machine Queen, but I think it made me tougher because everybody respected me because they
Okay.
knew
Well, yeah.
if I wasn't happy, they weren't going to bed. They
Oh,
weren't Lights were
yeah.
not going out.
Yeah.
Latrine after showers had to be clean. And the other good thing about it was that because I was the last one, I showered by myself. I didn't have to shower with 20 other women standing there.
Very clever.
Yeah, so that
Very
was cool.
smart.
That was cool. Well, I didn't pick it. It was assigned to me.
Yeah.
I
You
didn't
just
pick it.
made the most of it.
Just
Yeah.
made the most of it. So, but I enjoyed it. I made good friends. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Physically, well, I struggled, with the running.
Sure.
I've been a smoker, still am today, but I had been a smoker. So the running, I'm not good at running, but I got through it.
Yeah.
And
Right. Right.
wow, yeah, I was proud of myself. I did
That's
good.
great.
Yeah. But all the way up to the last day, they were
Yeah.
weighing me. All the way up to
Wow.
the day before graduation, I was at 146.2.
Oh, jeez.
And they said, do nothing for the next 24 hours except drink water. Do
Yeah.
not eat.
Yeah.
And I did. And of course, I had to drink water. You get too dehydrated in San Antonio
Right.
in July, right?
Oh,
So,
God. Yeah. Yeah.
and I did it. I went down to 145. So the day of graduation, they could stamp my
No
certificate.
kidding.
Yep, I did it. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah.
So, well, now wait a minute. You must have found. When did you find out what you were going to do? It had to be during basic, right?
During basic, they bring you in like 3 or 4 weeks in.
Yeah.
They lined us up with our brother flight, and they brought in all these different AFSCs. They brought in some jumpers, paratroopers,
Of course.
all the
Yeah.
stuff that the men could do that we couldn't. In fact, they gave us a sheet of paper, and
Yeah.
on one side was all the open general jobs, and it was only people in the room that hadn't had a job assigned to them yet. So
Yeah.
my whole
Yeah.
flight was not there, but there's probably 15 women and 30 guys that had
Okay.
all come in open general, and we got the briefings from all the special, and now the guys could pick what they wanted. My paper, based on my scores,
Yeah.
I could be air traffic control,
Wow.
aerospace control and warning systems operator, which encompassed space, AWACS, and ground radar, all three.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The 2-7 shreds, 2-7-1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Uh-huh.
So I just put the X in front of 4 of them.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
My first choice was air traffic control.
Sure.
That was one of the most, I don't know, things that people knew about, right? People knew
Yeah.
air traffic
Translate
control.
in the civilian world.
Civilian work, exactly. And I ended up getting 276. And
Yeah.
we found out, which was the aerospace control and warning system. We found out a week later what you were going to be, but you didn't know where you were going, obviously, until after tech school. All you knew was now where you were going for tech school and how long the school was going to be.
Right. Right.
So that was Keesler in Biloxi, Mississippi, for 6
in,
weeks.
In August.
In July.
July and August. Oh my God.
Stupid mother.
So wait, now you're coming from Massachusetts, right?
Uh-huh.
And now you're going down where you're sweating at 6 a.m.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God, that'd be a tough transition.
Remember the movie Biloxi Blues?
Oh, I do. Yeah,
it's a dry
absolutely.
heat. It's a dry heat.
Right. Yeah, that's my first duty station was in Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Oh man,
I was like, what is going on down here?
In the bayou. Oh my God.
Yeah. So it was that kind of heat takes a little bit of getting used to. So,
but it may have actually been a detriment to me because it was so hot, especially in Keesler. We didn't run. We had red flag days.
Yeah,
every time we got out of school, if we got out of our class from 6 to 2, you'd go back to your dorm to change into PT. If it was too hot, the red flag went up and you didn't do anything.
Oh, well.
That didn't help me. I needed to get into shape.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It did not help me. And there was no indoor gym or anything to run in.
Oh, man. I didn't think about it that way. Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
that's true.
It was probably a detriment to my being physically fit. I want to make sure. I'm just looking at something real quick here. I told you about that. Okay. Told you. Oh, I got a basic training story really quick.
Okay.
I know you didn't go through Air Force Basic, but those of us that did, they had these little forms that were called Form 341s.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah, of course. Okay. Right.
And you had they were things to give you points against you for bad behavior or bad varying of behavior or whatever. You always had 2 of them. inside your OD green pocket, and you had to be able to, and they were pre-filled out with your name, your squadron, your flight, and your TI's name.
Yeah.
And then whatever the infraction was that you did, the individual that pulled that 341 would have to write it on there, and then it would get sent through the orderly room to your TI.
Yeah.
For that person to make a determination if it was going to count against you. Okay.
Okay.
We had one of our sister flight instructors. In all honesty, he really didn't do anything wrong, but he was being investigated for assault only in the sense a young lady, we were sanding down old metal bed frames. It was a rainy day. We couldn't do any training that day outside, so we were underneath the overhangs.
Okay.
And she had a crucifix inside her shirt that just kept falling out, and he was concerned safety that she could get it snagged inside the metal frame and hurt herself.
Yeah.
He kept telling her, secure that chain, either take it off and put it in your pocket or whatever. And it kept falling out. So finally he walked up and he grabbed just the chain. Just the chain. Didn't touch her. We all saw it. I told you to secure it, or you're going to go over there. I'm going to send you, you're going to go sit, time out, whatever. Somebody didn't like it. Another TI saw it, or another student saw it and reported them.
Right.
Now we had to get a briefing from the section superintendent. His name was Senior Master Sergeant Minifee. And this was probably a 6'4" black guy with the Smokey the Bear hat. The most intimidating person to this day I've ever met in the military.
Okay.
And I'm dorm guard. Okay. There's specific protocol. Check the ID before you open the door. There's a little window.
Right.
You have to slap their ID up on the window. You have to verify that they're on the access list. If they're not, they don't come in. Because you're talking about a female dorm.
Yeah.
If somebody got in, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm door guard. Our TI, who is a male, is already in the day room with all the other students.
Okay.
All the other women. And Minifee comes up. Boom, boom, boom. Open this GD door. And he's not saying GD. He's cursing.
Yeah, right.
Sir, may I see your identification card? I don't need mine. He's putting me through the paces, right? He's seeing if I'm going to crash or give in and just open the door out of fear.
Right.
It's a great test of character, right?
Yeah. Take the scariest guy.
Scariest guy. And all I can see is the brim of his hat through the window.
Oh, damn.
That's all I can see is the hat because he's tapping it like this.
Yeah.
So I did everything right. Sir, I need to see the front of your ID card. Sir, I need to see the back of your ID card. On our EAL was the last four of their social security number. I had to ask him that. He had it. I did everything I needed to do. I opened the door and I announced, gentlemen entering the dorm.
Okay.
There's already a gentleman in the dorm, my TI.
Yeah.
So I didn't need to announce that. So Minifee says, Airman or trainee, whatever they called you, isn't your TI already here? And I'm like, oh, shit. Give me that 341.
Oh,
everything perfect. Everything
come
perfect.
on.
I whip it out and I hand it to him. He goes into the day room, then calls me in because this is an important. We need to understand how bad sexual harassment was in the military at 1980s, early 80s. And they wanted to make it very clear that if you feel our language is out of line, if you feel like we've told you to do something that's not along the lines of your training here in Lackland, you need to speak up. You see something, you say something, whatever. So as he's leaving, Minifee, I have to escort him to the door. And my TI comes with us. And he had heard the entire exchange, our TI. He had heard it from the day room. And he followed me and Minifee, and he looked, and this is only a tech sergeant. He looked at Senior Master Sergeant Minifee. He said, can I have that 341, please?
Oh,
and Minifee takes it out of his pocket, and he hands it to him, and he tore it up right in front of him.
Wow. Very brave,
She did everything she needed to do. You rattled her only in the sense that she announced you. So what?
Yeah.
So what? What's wrong with that? An additional reminder that another male has just entered the dorm. So my TI came through for me, Tech Sergeant Collins. He came.
Wow, very courageous actually for the time.
He was my man. Oh yeah, definitely.
That's cool. That's very cool.
So,
so you were in the pickle suits, right?
We were in the green OD green. Women were not issued combat boots. We had low quarters and sneakers.
I bet you had a sharp crease on those damn things all the
I
time,
did
right?
all the time, and the only problem was because of the low quarters, I got shin splints really bad
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about
from
that.
walking around concrete. That's all you were
Right,
walking on was
right,
concrete,
right. Yeah.
and that carried all the way into tech school. I couldn't run for that reason either.
Oh,
I had
God.
shin splints. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
horrible, painful, very painful. But yeah, OD greens with the oh my god, the ugliest freaking uniforms in the world. Yeah,
So in 82, now you're late July, you're in Keesler.
I'm in
And
Keesler.
what'd you
Yep.
say? It was 6 weeks? How long was that tech
It
school?
was a 6 week course. Yep, yep.
God, it seems
And
awful short for that amount
yeah,
of
because
learning.
90% of what you do in that career field is OJT at the sites, is at your job.
Oh, back to
You
okay,
were
yeah,
you were
yeah.
there only to learn the minimum, the basics. Like I said, we got minimum basics of AWACS, ground radar, and space.
They always seem to go back and forth with that, right? They it was like for a little while, 5, 7 years, they'd be like, do it at your unit, and then they
At
would
the
get
unit. Yeah.
AETC would pull it back, and then they'd push
Yep.
it back
Yep.
out to the unit. It was crazy.
Yep. It
Yeah, it
was
was
crazy. They
crazy.
did that with Sivers. There was
Yeah, they
we
did.
trained in-house because there was
Right.
no schoolhouse at Vandenberg when we stood up Sivers.
Yeah, yeah.
Then it went out there. Is it still there? Is it
There is, but I have no idea what they train them on. I mean,
Oh, okay.
last time I was really paying attention to it, they were training them on basically like ESPT kind of stuff. And then they
Oh,
were
okay.
pushing them back out to the units. And with the rise of this standardized space trainer, they were able to do more training out there. It's changed so much. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no
Oh, yeah, that's true.
14th
Because
Air Force.
yep,
There's no eval shops anymore. It's maddening.
yep.
I don't know
I
how they
know
do
it's
it.
crazy. And the
Yeah.
standard space trainer was what I did for the last 4 years of my Northrop career. I
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
Sonalist tester for all the
Oh,
standard
were
space
you
trainers.
really? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you, talk to you about a little bit about the sexual harassment. I have to get in there.
Okay.
So we get on a bus at Lackland. There's two buses, two huge Greyhound buses,
Oh,
and there's about 120 students that are all heading for different courses. You had Morse code, Diddy Bop was there. You had
yeah.
all kinds of maintenance classes were at Keesler. It's pretty extensive base,
Yeah.
huge AETC facility, and first time we can actually sit with men. We can
Oh,
actually now commingle on the buses.
okay.
Hey, where are you going? I'm going 276. Where are you going? So we got a chance. It's a 14-hour bus ride.
Yeah.
Just about 12 to 14 hours. We get to Keesler. They pull us into what they call the triangle. The student triangle is where the students all lived.
Oh, okay.
Eight, all of their dining facility, chow halls, and their schoolhouses were in the
Yeah.
place called the triangle. We get there, we get off this bus, and we're immediately directed to go into an auditorium. So we all pile into this air conditioned auditorium,
All right.
and we're not told why. We have no idea why we've been told to go in there and sit.
Yeah.
Uh, Two-star general walks out onto the stage.
Whoa.
You want to see 120 people go,
Yeah, sure.
right? You're within a stone's throw of a two-star general. The most you ever saw when you were in basic was a senior master sergeant, right?
Right. Right.
Very few officers. This is what had happened. 2nd Air Force, which was the numbered Air Force above AETC at the time,
Okay.
had discovered a prostitution ring
Oh no.
had
Jeez.
been happening, and there were high-level 06 and 07 leaders at Keesler
Oh.
that were
Wow.
actually recruiting young female students that were having difficulties with their studies. Hey, be downstairs from your dorm at 6 p.m. A base taxi, which we had back then, it's going to pick you up, take you off base to this motel, and you're going to meet Colonel so and so,
Oh
and then you'll pass
man.
your course. Well, this had been going on long before I got there, but it had just literally a month before had been exposed.
Wow.
Everybody from that level had been fired, probably court-martialed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh.
they did a clean sweep of all the leadership of the Keesler AETC units. And what they wanted
Jeez.
to convey to all of us students is sexual harassment will not be tolerated. Don't be walking down the street and whistling at that person over there because you may not offend that person, but you may offend the person they're with, and then you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
We got the whole brief about no public displays of affection. If you see something, say something. If you feel like you've been harassed, and they made it a rule, no female students could be interviewed alone by a male instructor.
Yeah. Yeah.
If there was a one-on-one needed because the student may have been struggling, a female had to be with her at all times.
Sure.
So we got told all this rule, but it was like, whoa. So I walked into the military at the very, very beginning of sexual harassment awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was 43 years ago, and nothing's changed.
No, it still sounds like the same brief.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I just wanted to point that out.
You know, and that's what's frustrating, because you take an incident like that, and that's a power
Yep.
position being abused, has nothing to do with whistling at somebody, but then they filter that down, and that's the same brief we always got. Geez, I remember when was the horrible time when they came out, and that whole year was like alcohol focused. Do you remember that?
Oh,
and you had and it was just like, if you drink, you're going to be abusing them, you know, whether they give consent or not. It was a horrible brief.
Yeah, because there had been probably the earlier days of the roofies where, you know,
it could have been
advantage of if they had gotten drunk. Maybe.
I remember that year or so was very distinct change in tenor for that brief, you know.
We stopped going to the All Ranks Club there at Buckley Air National Guard base.
Yeah.
Remember
everybody was scared to death. Everybody was scared to death.
We would go there after every UTA for 90 cents for a pint of beer.
Yeah, right.
We'd all sit around drinking, and then we'd get on the road.
Right. But now everybody was scared to death. So
done. Don't do it. No party.
Yeah.
You can't go out and have a drink with your boss. No more drinks at lunch either. I remember that.
I don't remember that.
You could legally in uniform have one drink.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So when did you find out where your first assignment was?
Week before graduation.
Okay.
And there were 16 or 18 students in our class, all 276s. And our instructors came in, and they had these manila envelopes, and they started at one end of the room, and they passed the manila, and people would open them and say where they were going, right?
Interesting.
You know, space was pretty well. Not AWACS obviously was tinker, because you had to get trained to tinker. You couldn't go directly to the OCONUS site, Saudi Arabia, or anything like that.
Okay.
Ground radar, you could be anywhere. Alaska, Iceland, California, East Coast, and then for space, Colorado was it, except for two remotes, Alaska and Beale, not a remote, but Beale. Okay. So they start opening their little envelopes, and the first guy wrote a Spain, which is which is out of the ordinary, because I think there's only 4 billets for that need back in the early 80s at Rhoda.
Right.
And then the next person was Hickam, Hawaii. And I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this is great. And then the next one is Rockville, Iceland, which is a site in Iceland, but it's not considered a remote because you're only 50 miles from civilization. And if you had a family, you could bring your family. It would be a 2-year tour.
Crazy.
Yeah. And then the 4th site was the one I got, which was Hofn, down in the very corner of the southeast part of the country of Iceland.
Oh, man.
A completely remote, desolate place.
Really?
So as they're going around, I'm counting. Okay, they went in order. Who's got Rhoda? Okay, Hickam. Okay. And I counted. Oh, shit.
And sure enough,
I knew before I got my envelope that I was going to be Hofn.
Oh, wow.
So I got it, open it up. Yeah, I got it. So there were 4 of us that were going to Hofn, 4 that went to Rockville, 4 Hickam, 4 Rhoda.
Yeah, sure.
You know, so it was even spread. But again, Iceland. And my mother cried. Oh, did she cry?
She did? How come?
I called her. I said, Mom, I'm going to Iceland. What? Because you know how you fill out a dream sheet, right?
Yeah, of course.
I grew up 45 minutes from Westover Air Force Base in Chicopee, Mass. There's Cape Cod Air Force Station.
Oh, yeah, right.
Hanscom.
Right.
At least 4 locations within the state that I had written, and I get fucking Iceland.
Iceland. Wow.
So, Iceland. But at least I was able to get a couple of weeks of leave at home, see the family before I had to report to McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey.
Okay. Yeah, I've been
Get
there.
on the C-141 rotator to fly to Iceland. Unbelievable.
What where was Hofn considered a remote?
Yes, 100% remote.
Because it was so far away.
Tour.
Yeah.
Yes, because it was so far. No accompanied. Rockville, you could be accompanied because your family could actually live in base housing on Keflavik Naval Air Station, 50 miles away.
That's where Keflavik is. Okay.
Yes, yep. And so Rockville, you could do it, but it would be a 2-year tour. If not, it was only a 1-year tour. Considered it, but it would give you the remote ribbon.
Right.
Rockville was still considered a remote.
But Hofn was a true remote.
Hofn was a true remote. It was, like I said, we jutted out into the North Atlantic. It was a man-made peninsula made out of rock, and it jutted about a half a mile out onto the ocean, and black volcanic beaches.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful country.
Really?
If you ever get there, get there. I got out and saw it. I made sure I didn't.
Yeah.
You make or break a remote tour. You could.
Of course. Well, you make or break really any tour.
Anything, any tour.
Yeah,
but you could spend 12 hours a day working and 12 hours a day sleeping, and you were really only there 6 months.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I got out and adventured with other coworkers and things, and it was really a beautiful, beautiful place to be. But it was like being in a MASH unit. And I think I told you this once before, but with no tents. Hard buildings.
Oh, yeah, right.
Hard buildings, but no fresh eggs, no fresh milk.
Oh, man.
Coffee, an all ranks club, ration cards for liquor. You had a ration card for liquor, and cigarettes.
God, that's almost like you're deployed.
You essentially are. Yeah, actually you are. You are deployed. You are out of touch. No mail for there were times if the flights couldn't make it, because our mail came through Reykjavik, the civilian airport. All of our mail was shipped from Kef to Rek, put on a plane, and if weather delayed or that plane didn't land, you didn't get your mail.
Yeah.
So you could go weeks sometimes without mail if the weather was bad.
Wow.
Yeah. We had a chaplain that would come up. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Tell me the chaplain.
We had a chaplain to come up every Sunday if the aircraft could get them there.
Oh, okay.
And we had a small, single-wide, half-size trailer.
Yeah.
And he would set it up, Catholics on one side, Protestants on the other.
Of course, right.
And he would do services for anybody that wanted it. And then he would fly back on Monday morning. So, yeah.
What was the unit and the mission?
The 667th Aerospace Control and Warning Systems Squadron. And its mission was to detect and track Russian Bear bombers coming down from Russia, heading for Cuba.
Oh, wow.
So they'd come out of the North Sea area, and they would fly right along the coastline of Iceland.
Yeah.
Until they went down to Goose Bay, northern Canada, and then down the east coast to Cuba. And we would, oh man, it was funny. We had what we called an ETP, the estimated time of penetration.
Of course. Right.
You can take that however you want, but that's what they called it. And we had this big, giant teletype machine.
Yeah.
And paper this wide, and we would hear the bells go off. And you'd walk over to the big machine. It's a giant, huge machine about the size of a jukebox. And you peel the paper off, and it'd say ETP. What are we seeing? Flight number 4, last known location. And then we would have to wake everybody up, because you had a minimal crew until there was an ETP.
Oh, okay.
And a weapons officer, 1 scope dope. That's what I was. I was a scope dope. And 1 commander. But now that you have an ETP, you got to call in all the positions. Somebody's got to get behind the plotting board, which was 20 feet tall. Get up behind there and right backwards. And every time you would see, if you ever saw, Hunt for Red October.
Sure.
Yeah, you can see when they're doing the plotting on with the grease pencils. That's what I did upright. So I'd have a headset on. A UPU-62 operator would say last known ping, the presentation on the scope.
Yeah.
I'd put it down there, and different colors for friendly, foe, unidentified, you name it. And we would,
wow.
as soon as they got to a certain point, our weapons officer would call Keflavik and they'd scramble the F4s.
So, oh man, that's right, huh?
50
What
is,
this ground radar, right?
ground radar
site?
a tipsy 43 TPS
Oh,
43
okay.
radar.
Okay.
And we had a height finder too that was like a banana.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it would give us height above the water, and of course the tipsy would give us distance. But directly behind us, north of us, we had a mountain. So we were completely blocked from, if you can look at a compass, from
Yeah.
270 to 015. Black.
Oh, jeez.
Because there was a mountain behind us. And that's why they, in fact, we wouldn't have had as much as we had if they hadn't built this peninsula. But so we were always concerned that they might come that way, but they never did. They always came full shot right over the water, and we would call to scramble, and then we would, as they passed out of our airspace, we'd pick up the phone and we'd call Rockville because now they're heading for them.
Oh, you pass them off,
and we would pass them off, and then Rockville would pass them off to somebody in Goose Bay, Labrador, or further down in the north, Maine area.
Yeah.
Whoever they had radio contact with, and you track them all the way down. The bear bomb.
Pretty fascinating. That's pretty.
It was great.
Cool. Yeah.
It was great. Yeah.
I don't know
guys,
what the
10 women.
I don't know what the frequency of those flights were, but
I'd say once a week.
Oh,
once
okay.
a week, and then we'd get them coming back. Then we'd get them coming back, and Rockville would hand them off to us, and if they didn't follow the path that they were supposed to be going, then we would scramble on them.
Oh, wow.
We'd have to. We'd have no choice, And then one time we had an SR-71 came through. We knew it was coming.
Yeah.
It had been at the Paris Air Show.
Oh,
and it was flying home.
Yeah.
And it decided to give us a little thrill. And our console was a full rotation. This is not classified. A full rotation every 60 seconds.
Right.
I'm on console. We can hear the pilot talking to our weapons officer, the SR-71 pilot. He said, "Hey, I'm heading your way." Blip. Minute later, blip.
Wow.
60 seconds, 400 miles gone.
Wow. Jeez.
I circled him when I saw him the first time. Then I'm looking, and now he's up here. And next thing you know, he's off my screen.
Had to be the fastest thing you saw up there.
Fastest thing we'd ever seen. Fastest thing. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Within 60 seconds, 400 miles. In our but it was cool. It was an EPR bullet right there.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, you already getting started on it.
71, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, I had horrible APRs. Back in the day, they were called airman performance reports.
Okay. All right.
And they were 1 to 9 instead of 1 to 5 ratings. And I was lucky if I was pulling off a 5.
Oh, yeah.
It's out of 9.
But there was a whole.
You could go ahead.
I was just saying a whole probably different attitude about ratings and how they were weighed and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, we didn't stratify, didn't do any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
You could write paragraphs. None of this crap of fill up the white with a bullet.
Right? Yeah. You write a narrative.
The supervisor you write a narrative, and my narrative was senior airman or airman one striper.
Yeah.
Porter does not know how to shut her mouth. I have it. I still have my.
Even from the early on.
Even from the early on, I couldn't shut my mouth.
No wonder you never told us that stuff. We would have never lived that down.
I talked back. I was argumentative. She put it all in there.
Oh, wow.
I had a staff sergeant who was my supervisor. So, but hey, I was remote. And I don't recommend a remote assignment for a first-term airman ever.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That assignment should have been for E4 or higher.
Yeah, maybe a 5 level or something like that.
Yeah, somebody who's already established in the military.
Yeah,
Stupid place to send a young, naive female.
Sure.
10 women, 100 guys.
Oh, jeez.
And I was single. So didn't pay for a drink for a whole year.
Well, but somebody of maybe lesser self-assuredness might suffer, during that
Agreed.
kind of thing,
Agreed. So. Yep. I had a thick skin, like I said, raised with 5 brothers. And I didn't take any crap from anybody.
Right.
And I just needed to learn how to curb my argumentative part of my brain. And I got better as my last CPR, because back then they did them every 6 months,
Right.
And she there's been some improvement, she said. And so she recommended me for my second stripe, which I wasn't going to put on for another 4 months, but because I was going to be PCSing, I was going to be leaving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got my orders to leave, and my orders were, I got them in October. I was leaving in November. Unfortunately, the gaining, or the unit says data masked. So my orders, I don't know where I'm going.
Why did? Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. So I data masked. So I go into the orderly room, and there's a tech sergeant there, and I said, look, I need to know what kind of clothes to pack.
Sure.
I have no idea. Am I going to California? Am I going to Japan?
Yeah.
Where am I going? And luckily, she noticed at the very bottom of the orders, the Consolidated Base Personnel Office, CBPO, is what we now call our Mission Support Squadron.
Okay.
Force Support Squadron, excuse me.
Yeah.
The gaining CBPO had a zip code.
Okay.
And she had a zip code phone book. So she looks up the zip code, Aurora, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
So my gaining CBPO was Lowry Air Force Base.
I got you. Yeah.
So I still didn't know exactly where I was going. I just knew I was going to Colorado, right? Because I wasn't going to be assigned to Lowry. I was going to live there, but I wasn't. So that was an experience to figure out where the hell am I going. So I took the rotator back and took a couple of weeks of leave, went to see the family.
Is this 83?
83, November of 83.
Okay.
And I had met my first husband in Iceland, and he had rotated back before I did. So I headed for California to see him and his 3 kids.
You actually got married out there in Iceland?
No.
Or you just met your future husband. Okay.
Met my future first husband. Yeah.
Right.
Now ex-husband. Let's make that very clear.
Got it.
Yeah. And while I was there, my older brother, still in the Navy, was a recruiter, Navy recruiter. He was living in Minnesota, and he had experienced a medical emergency.
Oh.
And his wife has got 2 little ones, my niece and nephew, at home by herself, and he's in the hospital. Red Cross calls me.
Oh, wow.
Finds me at my soon-to-be first husband's home.
Yeah.
And says, you're on active duty. You're going to do what the Red Cross tells you.
Whoa. Yeah.
We are paying for your ticket. You are flying to Minnesota. You need to go and take care of help your brother and his wife and 2 kids.
Jeez.
I was on leave. It's not like I was going to be late to my assignment.
Right.
I was on leave. I got on an airplane in LA and flew to Minneapolis and took an overnight bus to get to my brother's home, and knocked on the door at 2:00 in the morning. There's my sister-in-law, like, what the fuck are you doing here? They had never told her I was coming. Never told her. And I said, the Air Force sent me here to help you. So I stayed a week. And by then, my brother had improved and he got out of the hospital. And then I reported to Colorado. So
wow.
They paid for the ticket. They covered the costs and everything. I was shocked.
Jeez, they'd never do that now.
Not today.
No way.
You know, and to have them call and say, you need to get on a plane.
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic that they did that back then, but now they wouldn't do that. I don't even know if they do that if they were terminal.
If somebody died.
I mean, so that's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, but anyway.
All right, so you land in Colorado.
Stapleton Airport.
Oh yeah, I remember old Stapleton. Yeah.
And had a sponsor. Moved into the barracks. That's the only barracks building still standing at Old Lowry today.
Is it still up?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
It was used for the Katrina evacuees. What was 20 years?
Oh, yeah, right.
Katrina?
Yeah.
And but yeah, dining for chow hall right next door. And was told report to the CBPO for in processing, and that was 10 days of in processing.
Oh, wow.
I had to make sure I had not been issued appropriate uniforms, right? Because I was stationed in a ground radar site.
Yeah.
And all we did was OD green and parkas. That's all. I didn't even have a set of blues. I didn't even have that.
Oh, geez, really?
So I had to get a whole new issue of uniforms. And then on the 10th day is when they finally said, oh, by the way, you're not going to be working here. You're going to be working 6 miles east at Buckley Air National Guard Base.
That's right.
What the
Okay.
hell's at Buckley Air National Guard Base?
Why are you
data
going to a
masked.
National Guard base? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, data masked, right? I
Yeah.
figured my role was going to be at Lowry. And sure as hell, I got on a Blue Goose on day 11. And there was like 20 of us that were going out to Buckley. Some were maintainers, some were operators.
Oh, were they? Yeah.
Yeah, and drove us out there, and that was the first time I saw DSP data.
No kidding.
That was 1983, November of 1983.
Were you going to CGS or did you go to the 80th?
I went to what became CGS. It was the 2nd Communications Squadron. They didn't have.
Oh, got it. Yeah, yeah.
There were 2 units. There was the 2nd Communications Squadron and the 2162nd Comm Squadron, and they were side by side.
Oh my God, that's wild.
I was going to be a scope dope.
Yeah.
Watching DSP, I think I can say this, DSP flight 9 and 10.
Oh, wow.
9 and 10 were the first 2 I was exposed to, and then I was there when a couple of them went up. But,
the job I'm working, they're doing Forge. We talked about that and how they're transitioning what Sibbers is now to the application side, right? So I'm working on the mission application that's going to go out to the floor and replace the old architecture.
Cool.
Right? So they're all going to run on this Forge framework, and you're going to have a mission application. You'll have a SSP application. All these apps are going to come off of this thing. So it's easier to upgrade and maintain. But as they have all those satellites up there, all different colors, and this is how... I don't mean to be this old to some of these young programmers and stuff, but I was like, I remember when CGS was all monocolor. And they had
monochrome green, right?
Right.
And you had one flight, no stereo. You had one flight on one string, one flight on another string.
And they had to pick patterns out of this damn thing.
And we had to pick patterns. If you allowed the system to auto, you weren't doing your job.
Oh, it was that. Oh my God.
The system, if you couldn't beat the system, you weren't good enough.
That's crazy.
And you had to have all of the threat sites around the world memorized by latitude and longitude.
Whoa.
There was no symbology like they have little sites today that they can middle mouse and see every missile system that can come out.
It's enough to remember the nicknames, and you had to know Latin law.
I've still got them memorized. I've got the two-letter designators.
Yeah.
And they're Latin long, and one of them was so close that it had a space launch here.
Yeah.
And an ICBM launch here, and only by 0.2 of a degree could you tell which one it was.
Oh man! Wow.
Was it a threat or was it a lift? Right?
Were they calling them taxing sites back then, or no?
No. Well, tax, yes. The threat area coverage, yes.
Okay.
But we didn't have sites in the system. You just had to memorize Latin.
I got you.
So when you picked up on the data with a light pen.
Oh, really? Wow.
A light pen and picking up the light register off of this 800 points on your screen, an oblong shaped Earth, no map.
Yeah.
No map.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Nothing, no map.
Wow.
You just knew what flight you were looking at, right?
Yeah.
So you knew the footprint of that flight. So you knew if my threats were in this part of the country or part of the world on that flight, and if they were on that part.
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
It was nothing like our spoiled operators have today. Nothing. Nothing. Just amazing. But my husband, my current husband, who I met, was my instructor at the site.
Oh,
and he was. I think were we Bravo flight? He was our instructor. He was our crew instructor, right? On duty crew.
Yeah.
And he was a staff sergeant at the time. Taught me everything I knew about DSP, how to properly manage and manipulate the data. So don't forget, if solar came into it, you lost all your data. You had to blank solar. We have auto blanking.
Right.
He was called the solar warrior because he could build a blank, quick, put in the algorithms, or excuse me, the values and heat, and then he would track it as the sun moved. and he would delete a blank, build a new one.
So
delete a blank, build a new one.
he was the precursor to the day-night Terminator.
Yes, he was. Yep, he had to follow the day-night Terminator because, and the map that you see, who's got it now? Somebody in the building's got it, where it shows you the day-night Terminator.
Yeah.
That map was in our ops room. That was ours. That was
okay.
in our ops room, and that's how we knew time of day, satellites, the whole bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he within 3 months, I was a certified operator and instructor under my current husband's watch, because he was the shit for DSP. Let me tell you.
That's pretty cool. So, second comm squadron.
Second Communications Squadron.
Yeah.
DSP being processed at that facility was classified.
Yeah.
I didn't even have a TS clearance. I had a secret level clearance.
Okay.
TS for me didn't come in until many years later in my career.
Right.
It was just not talked about. And I think the story goes mid-90s, some Australian minister, defense minister of some kind, gave a briefing and talked about how DSP was processed at their site, OGS, and our site, CGS, CONUS Ground Station.
Yeah.
And then so that pretty much declassified it. And now it's not a big secret, right? For 30 years, it hasn't been a secret that DSP data is out there.
Well, the only thing that really made it TS in the first place was all the Intel stuff. But everything else was almost open source, but they knew it. I mean, okay, good. I'm glad you know it.
That's why my orders were data masked.
Yeah.
Because of my AFSC, what could she possibly be doing to go to that location?
Sure. Right.
So
every day they bust you back and forth?
Every day until I bought a car.
Okay.
Until I got my first car in Colorado. Right. But yes, we had midnight chow. We would go right off crew. What became the Devil's Den, right on the outside of the ADF fence there, which is now, what is it now? What do they call it now?
I don't know.
A little building that used to be, it's gone?
Oh. Well, it's not a chow hall. I mean, they sell coffee or something.
Coffee, yeah.
Yeah.
But we could walk out as a crew, 11 o'clock at night, go out and get eggs to order.
Makes such a difference.
Food,
yeah.
Right there. Oh my God.
Right.
You're on a meal card, if you lived on base. So.
And then they close that all down.
They close it all down.
15, 20 years ago.
When I left active duty in '86, it was still there.
Yeah.
But not until they built barracks on the base, which was when my husband was stationed at Buckley many years later. Did they even provide anything for these airmen?
Right. Well, it was National Guard base for forever.
National Guard. Yeah. In fact, you remember 8 Swiss? We didn't go and have our UTA meals across the street at the 140th dining facility.
Right. That was the only one out there. Yeah.
It was the only one out there. The guard had to feed us. Yeah.
And then go drink at the Commander Club. So.
And then at Commander Club. Didn't you know Commander was for each service?
No.
Commander. C was civilian.
Okay.
A was Air Force or Army.
Yeah.
M, Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Another A, Air Force or Army.
Yeah.
N, Navy. And another A. I don't know what that was. That's what it was. And there was a sign hanging right above the bar.
Oh, I didn't know that's what that stood for.
Commander Club. Yeah.
Interesting. Look at that. A little history there.
A little history. Yeah.
Did you make staff there?
No, I didn't make staff until I was off active duty. I made Buck Sergeant.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Buck Sergeant.
I
should have said E5 is what I should have said.
Yeah. I made.
Or was a Buck Sergeant E4?
E4, yeah, with NCO status. The star was filled in, but I didn't get it till the day I separated. So I was there, met my first husband, or married my first husband. Didn't go well. He got assigned out there, so we had a joint spouse assignment.
Okay.
He did some very horrible bad things and ended up being separated from the Air Force.
Okay.
Divorced his ass, and then 3 months later, married my husband, who will be 40 years this year.
Wow. Fast mover. Look at you.
Fast mover. So anyway, so he had gotten orders to go to Keesler to be an instructor. I wanted to as well, but they had no E4 slots to be an instructor at Keesler, or else we would have gotten a joint spouse assignment.
Yeah.
I would have been able to stay in. I would have gone further than just my first 4.
Okay.
So we decided I would separate The following
Wow.
May,
Yeah.
I stayed here in the local area with his brother and my two nephews. Helped them out. I didn't have to pay rent for the last 4 or 5 months. I lived in Colorado, so it was very helpful. And then I separated May 2nd of '86, and I was promoted to Buck May 1st of '86.
Oh.
The certificate. So all it meant was I enlisted for 6 years, 4 active and 2 individual ready reserve.
Okay.
They
So
were automatically into the IRR the day you hit your 4-year mark, unless you chose to stay. But I couldn't
yeah.
because I couldn't get an assignment. So I chose to finish my first 4 and then go IRR.
Were you disappointed by that?
Yes, I wanted to be an instructor. I really did. I
Yeah.
wanted to go with him. It would have been an ideal assignment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ideal assignment for the two of us. It's a special duty tour, you know.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but I do believe that if I stayed on active, I never would have made chief. So
Well,
it's a
so
trade-off.
you separated and then followed him out there?
Yes, well, he was out there. He went out there December of '85,
Okay.
reported for duty. He came back on leave. We got married.
Yeah.
Then he went back. Oh, the reason why we got married then was when he got there, he was an E6 tech sergeant. He gets to
Right.
Keesler, and they're like, "Yeah, you're a single guy. You got to live in the barracks."
Aha.
And he's like, "An E6, a tech sergeant, got to
That's
live in the
weird.
barracks?"
Yeah, that's pretty
They
weird.
said, "Yep." So I'm driving home from Mississippi back to Denver, Aurora.
Yeah.
Hey, hon, can we push the wedding up a few months? If we get married, I don't have to live on base.
Golly, that's crazy.
So we did. We pushed it up. It was supposed to be the following June, but we pushed it up. So he
Okay.
would, and it was good because I was still on active duty, and you can't take leave for your boyfriend, right? Emergency
Yeah.
leave, right?
Right.
So it was smarter
Right.
that we were legally married so we could help each other if something went wrong. You know?
Okay.
So
All right.
anyway, he went there. I did finish my last 6 months on active duty in May. I had about 28 days of terminal leave, so middle of April,
All right.
I flew to Mississippi and joined
Now
him.
you're IRR or what?
Now I was an individual ready reserve,
Okay.
which means you have to report once a year,
Right.
so that they know you're still alive, you're still within
Right.
weight standards, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Remind
And
you that you're recallable if they need you.
You're recallable. And I waited
Right.
1 year, went to May of '87, and heard about a air control warning squadron in Gulfport, Mississippi that was looking for people.
Well, there you go.
And
A reserve or a
enlisted-
guard squadron?
Guard unit,
Okay.
Mississippi Air National Guard. So I enlisted in the Mississippi Air National Guard in May of '87,
Nice.
and soon after, 4 months into it, found out I was pregnant with our first child, our daughter.
Okay.
And 4 months later from that, the hubby got orders to Berlin, Germany.
All right.
So, but with that came his
Oh, but wait, you
TSSCI.
got to be what, 8, 9 months pregnant right here.
Well, we ended up not leaving for Germany until our daughter was 8 months old because of how long it took for him to get his TSSCI.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
It was crazy. He got the orders in February of '88. We were thinking any day now. We were living out of boxes for 6 months.
Oh, man.
Waiting for the orders to drop. She's born May of '88.
Okay.
And then I separated from Mississippi Guard because I was going to West Berlin.
Yeah.
Wall was still up. There's no way I could continue my guard duty or even reserve duty in an occupied territory. Berlin was still at that point in occupied territory.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So I had done 1 year with the Mississippi Guard as NCOIC of training, and then had the kid, and then the following December, finally his orders: get on a plane, and we took some leave, saw the family on the East Coast. And 5 days after the aircraft blew up over Lockerbie, we were on a 747 flying into Frankfurt. Or Tempelhof, excuse me.
Okay. That was 86?
88.
Oh,
December of
88. Oh, man. Oh, okay.
December of '88.
Okay.
So we were there before, during, and after the wall coming down, which was an
Yeah.
extraordinary experience. And we
Did
got
you
there
get a
like
piece
we got
of it?
there new. I have my own pieces that I literally chipped from the wall myself.
Wow. Yeah.
Upstairs, and I have a 100-pound piece of it in my backyard.
Oh, jeez.
That was a gift from an old Air Force friend of ours when I retired from the reserves. He gave me a
Okay.
100-pound chunk,
Wow.
along with the barbed wire, as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Wow.
right now it's you can't sit on it, but it's a bench in our
Oh,
backyard.
okay. Yeah.
I had it on display with lights on it, but then I turned it into a bench. It's
Amazing.
authentic though. It's actually
Yeah.
absolutely
Of course.
authentic. Yeah.
Of
So,
course.
but yeah, we got there New Year's Eve day
Okay.
of 1988. So we
Okay.
brought in 1989 in Berlin, Germany.
Yeah.
And 89 November, wall comes down.
Yeah. Right.
Before it came down, we had a chance to travel to East Berlin on flag orders. He had to be in uniform. He could take his wife with two other couples. We went over to East Berlin, walked around, did some shopping,
Wow.
got a chance to really see. Oh my God,
Yeah.
the dank and darkness of East Germany, East Berlin.
Yeah. Who goes to East Berlin to go shopping?
Well, shit was cheap.
Oh, I got you.
and when you don't forget, it was back in the day, long before the euros, the Deutschmark was 2-1. So two
Yeah.
Deutschmark for every American dollar. The East German Deutschmark was 20-1.
Ah. Yeah.
And when you converted it, we went through Checkpoint Charlie, and you could convert your money, and you were told, do not come back with any bills. You can come back with change, but no bills. They didn't want the East German money on the West.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we had to spend it all. So we bought whatever we could, blankets what a unique experience. You walk into a store and you know how you have those little handheld baskets today in the supermarket?
Yeah.
And there's a rack for the baskets. So say if it was a shoe store or whatever. If there's not a basket in the rack, you didn't go in. You waited.
Oh.
They only allowed so many people in the store.
Really?
At any given time. And once the basket was put back, now you could go in. Now it was your turn. Because they had to keep control. Oh man, we went to the Tomb of Their Unknown Soldier. Had a wonderful 5-star meal at one of the best restaurants in East Berlin.
Wow.
What an experience. And then came back through Checkpoint Charlie with all of our wares. I still have it. I have china and crystal and things that we bought when I was over there.
Oh man.
Yeah, really cool. Really cool. And then the wall came down.
Yeah.
In November of 89. And we were told as Americans, stay away from the Brandenburg Gate area, let the Germans celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Leave them be. You know, I've actually met people that were standing right next to Tom Brokaw as he was broadcasting.
Oh, really?
I've met them since.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
In my career travels. But comes down about June, I'd say maybe April, we went over and I brought a hammer and a chisel.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And you only wanted to get stuff that had paint on it.
Of course.
That meant it was the side facing west.
Yeah.
And I got about 12 or 15 good size of a quarter pieces, real flat. Our daughter was in a stroller. That's how long ago this was. She's now 30. Oh, she's gonna kill me. 37. She'll be 37 this year.
Okay.
So she's in a stroller. That tells you how long ago. And got the pieces, and then 90. Desert Shield's building up.
Oh, yeah, right.
And of course, I'm not in the service, but I ran a daycare business. I was sponsored by the Army.
Yeah.
In the housing Department of Housing and Engineering, I was sponsored by them. Got my license to have a daycare business for only military families. So I was serving. Right.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're providing a service.
Providing a service, and the hubby worked with Signals Command, for lack of a better term, and we were waiting. Desert Shield, and all of a sudden, February of 91,
100-hour war.
100-hour war. The bomb start. He gets a phone call. Stay put. You know, they had told all the Americans, don't wear your uniform to work because you're taking all the public transportation. Wear a hat, but not a military hat, to cover the fact that you have a military cut, right? I mean, they were, don't drive your car around with a big USA offset crazy. Crazy. And 100 hours, but it's still the occupation for us. We occupied, right, Kuwait and part of Iraq. The Germans did not like the Americans in the sense that they supported Saddam Hussein. In some circles, the Germans actually provided him chemical weapons.
Wow.
So they did not like us.
Yeah.
And we would be subject to protests. We all lived out in the economy.
Yeah.
At one point, they shut down the DoD schools and surrounded the schools with Mack trucks and armored personnel carriers at every corner, 24/7. We'd go out and give the troops inside, hot cocoa and coffee because they were sitting there all night long.
Wow.
For about 2 weeks. School shut down for 2 weeks. Yeah, it was scary. I mean,
Wow,
it
sure.
was. The hubby actually got punched when he was on the U-Bahn one day. Yeah, but he got the guy good.
Oh,
Punched
good.
him right back and broke his nose. And I'll tell you this one story, then I'll shut up about Berlin. So we had always been told, if you see something, say something, especially after all the protests that have been happening with the Germans against Americans. Right. American people have been pushed off buses, and Molotov cocktails have been thrown over the headquarters building. And so anyway, he comes home, and the guy got him right where his glasses were, right here on the side of his face. So kind of bent his glasses a little bit, but he's a little red, but got to report it. So I call, and this is all Army. We're sponsored by the Army over there, Berlin Brigade. I call the MPs.
Yeah.
So about 10 minutes later, we have a intercom system from the basement, no elevator, 5 floors up. It's a lieutenant with the MPs. Ma'am, I'm here. Come on up and talk. I'm cooking dinner. I'm getting ready to cook dinner. The husband's in the living room, and I'm carrying a frying pan. And I open the door because I've buzzed them in, and I open it so when they get to the top landing, they can just knock on our door. So I'm holding the frying pan, and the lieutenant's like, they thought it was a domestic disturbance.
Oh, no.
They thought I had called in a domestic disturbance call. I said, and they're looking at him with and I got
the. Oh, yeah, right.
Like, no. My husband was hit by a skinhead on the subway.
Yeah.
Trust me, I wouldn't be calling you if I wanted to,
Right.
So the lieutenant's like, you take care of this, Sergeant. The lieutenant leaves, and the sergeant takes our statement. And
that's
then
funny.
3 or 4 days later, we come up from the Autobahn, and with our daughter with us, and sure as hell, there's the guy that attacked him, and he's got 2 black eyes right here. So he knew he broke his nose.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Sweet. So that was Berlin. That was the beginning of my 5-year service break. I had a 5-year service break.
Okay.
From 88 to 93.
Did you get your cuckoo clock over there?
I have 2 of them.
No, everybody has one, at least
but
one.
But then I got more when I went back over as a civilian.
Oh, okay.
Recently, it was my Northrop job. I got a couple more, but
yeah.
I'm trying to look. I think it's upstairs in the living room. Doesn't work though.
I don't see any Steins back behind you, so I'm
they're all upstairs in our.
Okay.
We have an 11-foot long shrunk wall unit.
Oh,
we had a box custom built.
Yeah.
To ship back from Germany. That's our number one souvenir outside of the chips of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
Yep. So we rotated back early. We were supposed to have been there for a 3-year tour.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have left until end of 92.
Yeah.
And or end of 91, excuse me.
Yeah.
Right then, the Air Force started to change up AFSCs. And if you were assigned to a space unit as of a certain date, you were now forever going to be space. If you were assigned to a ground radar unit, you were now going to be ground radar.
Oh, wow.
You were going to get locked in to that shred out.
Yeah.
As of April 1st of, 19, I think it was 91.
Okay.
Well, my hubby had competed in kind of like a Guardian Challenge thing, but it's in Europe called the Comfy Olympics.
Oh.
And he had competed and came in, he got the silver medal. And because he was so high up on the list of ranking of all the different 276s in the country, he had a choice of assignment. So when the functional came over to talk to everybody about this new change that was going to occur, they said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I want space. I want to get back into space." And sure as hell he did. So that's why we rotated back early, was to take a new space assignment in Rome, New York. And that's where we went. We went to our sponsoring base was Griffiths Air Force Base, it was SAC base, B-52.
Oh, yeah.
And his unit was a little bit further south of Rome in Verona. It was a deep space surveillance squadron.
Oh,
and
no
that's
kidding.
Yeah. And that's where our son was born. He was the last baby born at Griffiths Air Force Base.
Oh, jeez.
Before they shut it down, a BRAC closure.
Oh,
and June of 92, he was it. I had the whole floor to myself, man.
Oh, really?
All the nursing staff I could hope for. Yep. So that started Syracuse, and then a year later joined the New York Air National Guard.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
so active duty Mississippi Guard, now New York Guard. It was a air control group,
Were you
and
just did you go join just because you
I, I
wanted to get
I
back into it? Is that
I
why?
wanted to get back in. I wanted to get back in. It had
Oh,
been
all
over
right.
a year since my son was born.
Yeah.
We figured we'd be there for a little while. I wanted to get back in. I really did.
Okay. Okay.
And continue my career. And it was a GS position. It was a GS9 role.
Oh.
NCOIC of training, yep, so graded service or general service, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And NCOIC of training again. And they trained. We used the radars for supporting the drug mission in Colombia.
Oh, okay.
Our guys would deploy down there and show the Colombians how to work the radar.
A drug interdiction mission. I
Drawing
guess,
in
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
I couldn't go obviously because they wouldn't let women go. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Tony Santos, believe it or not, remember Tony Santos?
I do. Sure. Sure.
He did that as an instructor with Northrop Grumman. Went
Oh,
to Colombia to
wow.
teach them how to use their upgrade like 25 years later. Yeah.
Whoa.
Him and I had some sweet stories. But anyway, I got back in, but I couldn't come back in as a buck.
Okay.
Because by then, Buck Sergeant had been done away with.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they changed the rules with you. If you'd had more than a 2-year service break, you could not come back in as an NCO. So I
Oh,
came back as senior airman Zayatz.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was the oldest living senior airman in the New York Air National Guard. I know I was. And that's got me right back in again. And then 95, the hubby got orders back to Colorado.
Huh.
So I was by then still a 276, believe it or not. One Charlie was not a factor in this yet.
Oh, they haven't
Because one Charlie
made the
was
change
from
yet.
space, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to continue my career out in Colorado. Well, my unit commander at the 152nd was an old air-to-ground gunnery A-10 pilot.
Okay.
His name was Ted Dodson, greatest guy, and he knew all of the commanders at he had been the commander of the air-to-ground gunnery range at Fort Drum, New York.
Wow. Very
Okay?
cool.
And
Yeah.
he knew all the commanders of all the different air-to-ground gunnery ranges around the country, including the one near Fort Carson.
Huh.
So he made a phone call. And I had cross-trained into 3 Alpha Oscar to open up my opportunity. So now I had 2 AFSCs under my belt, 2 5 levels.
Yeah.
And he called. They enlisted me over the phone.
Oh, jeez.
They enlisted me over the phone to the Colorado Air National Guard.
All right.
I had a job AGR. I had an AGR position waiting for me when I got there.
They truly needed people.
They needed people. And that was the funnest. You'd never even begin to guess what we had to do.
No idea.
We were running the range for the Buckley F-16s.
Oh,
so Buckley F-16s would fly down there and use our range to train.
Yeah.
They had a strafing run where they would fire their 20 millimeter strafing and they'd get low and slow. And we were in a 70-foot tower up in the air. We could see their helmets. I mean, they would drop little BDU sulfur bombs,
Oh,
we have to drive the fire truck if they set the little grass on fire. We had ATVs. It was phenomenal. I never would have imagined going from sitting in an office to report for duty every morning at Peterson, leave our civilian POVs there, get into these 6-packs as a group, 10 of us, drive 45 minutes down to the site, to the range.
Oh, wow. Man.
Get up there, and we scored. I scored the Wing King on his annual recert, and he failed.
Oh, no.
He was not happy with me.
The commander of the 140th? Of the 140? Oh, no.
The 140th.
Yeah.
And my commander, who was also lieutenant colonel, was standing. He's looking through the binoculars. I'm looking through a special set that's been mounted so they don't wiggle.
Yeah.
And you got to say how many meters away from the target they were. And each time he dropped the thing, he was getting farther and farther away from the target. And he's screaming on the radio to my commander, "You better get her some glasses." Who is this person? So finally, He flies back. Red Eye 1 and Red Eye 2, that's their call sign. They head back, and he gets on the ground. He gets to the op center. We've already faxed in his results. He calls my commander and says, "I want it changed."
Oh,
The commander said, "No, I was right there with her. I saw everything she told you. Suck it up. Don't know what to tell you there, sir, but suck it up. Maybe you need some more training." Yeah. So, but
again, you
whatever.
had somebody else that had your back, so that's great.
Had my back. I had that a lot in my career. I did. I actually had.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few times I could. Yeah. One real quick funny story. The range is all fenced in. The only way to get access to this range is if you are on the north end of Fort Carson Reservation and you're walking, hiking. But when you pull up to it from the road off of US 50, it's all fence. It's a 15-foot fence.
Yeah.
Well, we all arrive one morning. I'm first in the tower that day. I get up to the tower. We're getting ready to call in Red Eye 1 and 2 hot on the range so they can do their thing. And I look down, and there was all these pup tents inside on the active range.
Okay.
Boy Scouts had hiked there the night before, not knowing where they were.
Yeah.
And got to the fence and stopped and pupped their tents right there.
Oh,
so there's a loudspeaker because if the range was going hot, you had to let anybody that was outside know that the aircraft are coming in for ear protection and stuff like that. And good morning, gentlemen. I'm on the main. By then I was a staff sergeant. This is Staff Sergeant Michelle Zayatz.
Wow.
You need to get out of your tents now. 2 F-16s are headed your way or something like that. You want to see these kids scramble out of those tents, man. They're knocking them over trying to get out of them so fast.
Were you watching them through binos or
looking down? I'm sitting 70 feet.
Oh, they're right there. Oh, okay.
Right there. So my commander and the first sergeant and everybody comes running, undoes the fence to get them on the other side of the fence. Get all their gear. We put them in a pattern. So we told the Red Eyes, hold on.
Oh,
we got
some
Boy Scouts that don't know where they are.
Yeah, right.
They were right in front of the strafing run.
Wow.
Literally.
I'm surprised. I mean, all the UXOs or whatever's out there.
All the signs are on our side. There's no signs when you come from the Carson side.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And had I not looked, there would have been some serious trouble. Serious trouble. Yep.
Very cool.
What a fun experience. Very fun experience.
How long did you stay down at that unit?
Not long. 7 months. And then I heard that the 137th Tactical Control Squadron was about to be redesignated as the 137th Space Warning Squadron.
Okay.
With mobile DSP.
Yeah.
And my active duty experience was DSP for the most part.
I'm desperate for somebody like you. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so my hubby had actually heard about it through the grapevine in his role. He was working at Cheyenne Mountain, 17th Test Squadron. He was at Cheyenne. And he had heard about it through the grapevine. And he said, hey, maybe you should think about this. It's in Greeley. And we were in the Springs. But, hey, he was within a year of retirement. The hubby was within a year of retirement. We knew he was going to be retired in 97. So I applied. Title 32, GS9.
Yeah. Back to government civilian again. Yeah.
Back to government civilian, and I got it. So had to find a place to live up there. And he stayed with the kids in the Springs. He dropped them at Peterson for their daycare every day or school. And then when it wasn't a UTA, I'd come home on the weekends. And when it was a UTA, he'd bring the kids up, and they'd sleep on air mattresses on the floor. Yeah. Pretty unique, trained in-house, 137, stood the unit up. Every single guard and reserve unit I was ever associated with was either changing missions or standing up for the first time. So
weird.
The 255th down in Gulfport, changing missions.
Okay.
Right? 152nd Air Control Group going to change mission from the radar to something else. That's what they were getting ready to transition over.
Yeah.
Now I'm at 130, and well, I'll take it back. The detachment for the 140th, their mission didn't change. That was just a one-off.
Oh.
But now here's Greeley. going from attack control squadron with radar to mobile DSP on the side of the truck.
Wow. Yeah.
So trained in-house. I don't know if you remember a guy named Mike Greenhagen.
No, I didn't know him.
No, okay.
No.
Okay. Chris Archie.
No, that name sounds familiar, but I'd never met him personally.
They're both current Northrop, but they were our two instructors at Greeley.
Okay.
And got certified and was proudly selected for the very first in space guard unit Guardian Challenge team.
Oh wow, look at that.
Yep, 97.
Huh. Yeah.
Guard, we were first in space. Guard had never done space before. So we stood up in 96, but 97, 21st Space Wing was our sponsoring wing.
Wow. Yeah.
And they asked for a Guardian Challenge team. You only have 2 people in the truck. So our team was only two. Only 2.
Yeah.
Our security forces could have participated, but they did not. They went straight with just ops.
Oh,
and we beat out Second Swiss.
Oh, no kidding.
We came in second place. Second Swiss came in third. I couldn't tell you who won that year.
The Second Swiss was doing CGS at that time, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right.
So 2 people in a mobile truck based on the evaluation, right? It's a 4.5, 5-hour eval.
Yeah.
Including evacuation, chem gear,
all the rest of
all that stuff,
right. Yeah.
And we beat Second Swiss. That was the proudest moment of my
career
in the Guard. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Really
cool. But you were doing that. Wait, how were you? You were a crew member, but you were civilian?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize they had. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So I was Title 32.
Yeah.
And paid during the week, paid as a GS-9.
Yeah.
And
but you were drilling. Yeah, you were drilling.
Yes.
Okay.
But I was a traditional guardsman.
Yeah.
So the problem is that nobody ever had a problem with enlisted non-Title 10 status releasing data from those trucks. Now they do. Now they have a problem with it.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But they did not. In 96, 97, all the way through the mid-2000s, were enlisted. 2 enlisted. It used to be 1 officer, 1 enlisted per crew. No, my coworker we would always run the truck together. He's since passed away. God bless him.
Right.
We were both enlisted. I was a staff. He was a tech.
Yeah.
That's unheard of today. You would not hear that today with the future of the trucks and all that kind of stuff. But
that's
a lot of fun. The mission was phenomenal. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
People sucked, but I loved the mission.
Well, you had your own little city up there. I mean, there were so many damn people in there. What'd you have? You eventually had over 200 or so in that squad?
No, not while I was there. Not while I was there, because I left August of '98.
Yeah.
Long before the 233rd group was even conceived.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There was 1 squadron, and it was just the 137th. Now there's 4 squadrons plus a group up there. Huge.
Yeah.
They got an all brand new facility, and but we were literally had just stood up. We didn't even have all the trucks. They were still down in Holloman.
Oh, jeez.
We had to go down to Holloman and drive them. I drove back I was the lead car in the 5th suite, which means mission, comm, all the support vehicles that go with it, crew quarters, tanker trucks, the whole bit, coming up Raton Pass in an ice storm. Oh, that was fun.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't make it. We had to go back.
Oh, you did?
Back down. We had to back all the way down and pull into the Holiday Inn that was right at the base of the mountain.
That's hairy.
Yeah, it was hairy. It was bad, but great experience.
Wow.
Great experience. Got a chance to go up to Guernsey, Wyoming.
Oh yeah, been there too. Camp Guernsey.
We deployed there, and the whole point of it was like a mini ORI.
Oh,
see how quickly could we leave Greeley?
Yeah.
With everything needed for a week: food, fuel, support vehicles, manning, you name it, and the team mission and comm. How long after we got on site at Guernsey did it take us to get data flowing?
Yeah, that seems like an eval point there. Yeah.
We did it, and I can't tell you how long it took us, but we did it in exceptional time. So now we're just pulling shifts, and this Army helicopter pilot, comes walking down And we had seen some Hueys flying in the area most of the day. And he comes walking down. He goes, "Hey, what do you guys do here? We have an an entry control point around it. He didn't try to get near the trucks, but he just, what do you guys do? Oh, we're from the Guard in Greeley. We do this and that." And he said, "Anybody want to ride?"
Oh, come on.
Oh shit, yeah. I got a ride, my second in my career on a Huey.
Yeah.
And he took us there.
Those guys
looking
look
out
for
the window,
yeah.
side rock face, and people are puking all over the place.
Yeah, he's trying to make you sick. Yeah, absolutely.
Trying to make us sick. But what an experience. Oh my
man,
God.
that's great.
Yeah.
Those were the days back then when you didn't have to worry about fuel and stuff like that.
Exactly. Or liability.
Yeah, that too.
That too. Because today that's a big issue, So anyway,
so you left the 137th to go to.
Well, I left first as a civilian. In February of '98, I heard about DSP, CGS, CONUS Ground Station, TRW, looking for civilian engineers to fly the system.
Okay. Yeah.
And I applied for a job with TRW, and I got it. So as a full-time employee, I left the Guard.
Yeah.
I was still a traditional Guardsman, though. So I was already out at Buckley daily, working shift work with Fritz Neufeld.
Oh, yeah, Fritz.
And I followed Fritz everywhere, man. Everywhere he went, I was right behind him. And then July of '98, we hear right there on the ops floor at CGS that they're going to stand up a reserve unit as a sister unit to Second Swiss.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa. Now, I'm still a staff sergeant.
Okay.
Nobody's going to promote me because I was a woman, and it was bad. Greeley, in that respect, it was bad.
Was it really?
Yes. And all the way up to E5, you could have 10 people in the same billet, but you had to have your own billet for E6 and above.
Okay.
So somebody had to die or retire for you to get promoted.
Yeah.
But the leadership sucked. I was miserable. I was so glad I had left there as a full-time employee, making much better money, doing what I really loved, DSP, different DSP.
Yeah.
And I went to Tim Johnson, who was our recruiter.
Yeah.
And he was active duty with my husband, as a matter of fact. And then he converted to AGR, and he was the one walking around looking for people. And he came into the SOC floor and he says, "Hey, are you interested?" I said, "You damn well betcha. What do I need to do? I want out of the Guard. I wanted out of the Guard. I didn't care how it happened. I wanted out of the Guard."
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah.
It was bad. And August of '98, I did my last UTA with 137th. In September '98, reported for my first UTA with Det 1. We weren't even a unit yet. We didn't stand up till the following year.
Yeah.
And there were 5 of us. So I was a founding member of the organization. Major Kiker, Colonel Anstead, Tim Johnson, Linda Hamill, and myself.
Oh, wow.
And we sat in a abandoned modular building at Falcon Air Force Station when it was still Falcon.
Yeah.
Still Falcon. No heat. So we went from September of '98 to the following May of '99 before we even started working at Buckley.
Why'd they have you down at Falcon? What were you doing down there?
No, nobody had room for us because 302nd was our gaining military personnel flight, right?
Yeah.
Nobody had any space for us. Second Swiss hadn't vacated offices yet in the building up here.
Oh, I see. I got
so we had no place to be. And so they said, "Oh, just go squat in that thing." And we went out to, we would drive back and forth to Peterson to go to the dining facility or chow hall.
Oh, man.
And looking over all these books and everything, me and Linda were probably, our eyes were bleeding just reading shit. It's like we couldn't. Also, clearances were a factor.
Oh.
They had to make sure that our clearances, I had just gotten my first TS, so they had to make sure everything was copacetic before they could let us. So, so April of '98. Tim's been doing his recruiting. Yeah. And there's probably 30 more people now assigned to the unit.
Oh, wow.
And I think we stood up June of '98. I think we stood up, June of '98.
Wow. 8th Space Warning Squadron.
Or 99, excuse me, 8th Space Warning Squadron. I got my little thing right over here, plank holder.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
That was, and from there, my career took off.
yeah, right.
I was a stagnant staff sergeant for 4
Decade.
years, nearly a decade, if you count
Yeah.
buck
Well.
sergeant in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
And
Right.
finally, because the unit manning document was brand new, and there was only 35 personnel. Even when we got there was only 5.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
was in a master sergeant billet as a staff sergeant when I got there.
Oh, wow.
And then when I made tech, they put me in a senior billet. And
Okay.
then when I made master, they put me in the chief billet.
Oh, jeez.
But
Just
then
so they could clear out for other people, right?
They took me out of the chief billet when Ray Baggett arrived, Chief
Oh,
Baggett.
yeah, Chief.
So I
Chief
was moved
Baggett.
back into the senior, and then
Okay.
Doc Sturgis had the chief billet.
Oh, yeah, right.
And when Doc Sturgis left, I was put back into that chief billet.
Yeah.
And I stayed there until I retired. I was in that 8 Swiss chief billet from 2002
Yeah.
till 2011 when I retired.
Oh, wow.
I was
I didn't
on
realize you
loan.
were in that billet for that long.
I was in that billet. That was my billet. And 8 Swiss Tech Master came, Senior came, several different firsts for me at the 8 Space Warning Squadron, if I can list a few of them.
Yeah, of course.
First ever Air Force Reserve Certified Mission Crew Chief on SIBRs.
Yeah.
First ever Air Force Reserve Mission Crew Chief Certified Instructor.
All right.
First ever senior NCO to ever attend the Senior NCO Academy in residence from the 310th Space Group.
Oh, yeah, sure.
In residence. Everybody correspondence,
Yeah.
What else did I have? I was reading them today.
Aw.
So several firsts, and that unit was my baby. I went from crew chief to flight chief to ops superintendent while I was there.
Yeah.
I was
cool.
groomed by the absolute finest officer corps I could have ever asked for.
Oh, yeah.
Ever.
Oh.
There isn't a one of them that I wouldn't give my life for today.
Who?
They were extraordinary. They were never condescending.
Yeah.
I told them, be upfront and honest with me. I used to go in with Rat at the end of every UTA and say, tell me what I did wrong.
Yeah.
What can I fix? Give it to me. What can I do? And Grooney and Mindoro and Barreto and Anstead, Hunt.
Yeah.
The finest group of officers I could have ever, like I said, ever asked for.
Very cool.
Very cool. A lot of great senior NCO leadership at the group level too. Darren Miley was our AGR chief for the group before he became a wing. He groomed me. Quite a few. Greg Huntsman. Quite a few. Troy Wiles, believe it or not. A lot of grooming, but my number one was in the attempt to go to the Senior NCO Academy in residence. I had already taken the correspondence course, and it took me 2.5 years of application after application to get approved to go in residence.
Oh, okay.
Because the process was so archaic. You had to send a package with a photograph and page after page after page of all this shit, right?
Yeah.
And they sent the one package back because in my photograph, my tab tie was just down a little bit on the shirt. When a photo wasn't even required, I had added it to the package.
Yeah.
I came across at 8 Swiss, our 10th Air Force Command Chief, Larry Chang.
Okay.
He was our numbered Air Force Command Chief Reserves. I had met him down at Homestead years earlier.
Yeah.
And he became my mentor. He got me exposed to things. He called me in for boards and things at 10th Air Force. As a master, I'm sitting on boards down at the numbered Air Force.
Right.
He got me exposed. So anyway, I want to go to Senior NCO Academy in residence. I've already pinned on senior because I did it by correspondence, but I wanted to go in residence, that rebluing kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
And he took it under his wing. He came out to see the unit one day, and he was asking everybody, any pay issues? We're all in an enlisted call with him. Anybody get any issues? And I waited because I'm a senior. I was still the op soup, and it's not good for me to really bring up my problems in front of the junior enlisted. So
Right. Right.
he comes into my office and said, Chief, I want to go. I want to go to the Senior Instructor Academy at Maxwell. I want to go. Here's all my packages. He made one phone call.
Yeah.
One phone call, and I was in the next class, March of '05.
Wow.
So I had the opportunity to do both the correspondence and go in residence, all
Yeah.
because of him.
Yeah.
And one of the things I ended up doing before I retired from the mission support group in 2011 was I put in place a whole new process for in residence academy applications.
Oh,
One
nice.
page. On the front is your name, why you want to go in 3 bullets or less,
Yeah.
your first sergeant's name, is he physically fit, does he owe any debt, does he have a clearance, whatever. Next was DO or next equivalent executive. Next was your commander. That's it.
Yeah.
Sent it in. Now people were starting to be able to go in residence to the academies. But
Oh, good.
I give Larry Chang all of that credit. But yeah, 8 Swiss opened every door for me.
Yeah.
And then went down to the group in late 2006 to Darren Miley had 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th stops.
Yeah.
Kind of like being the chief enlisted manager. And then he
Oh,
had
I see.
yours.
Yeah.
He had 19 stops, 310 com flight, cops.
Yeah.
I had the 6, 7, 8, and 9 because I was a member of the 8th. And went out to Vandenberg a couple of times to visit the unit out there. Got some travel in there. And
Very cool.
Saw a great launch. And then I think it was, what was I? Just lost my train of thought with my years here.
2006 you were down there.
That's 2006. So I'm commuting on my UTAs.
Ugh,
instead of going to Buckley, right?
Did that for
they put
5 years. It's horrible. Yeah.
Oh, I know it. They put me up in billeting. They'd give me chief's quarters even though I wasn't a chief.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Right there at Peterson. So I couldn't complain,
Yeah, right.
And then Northrop Grumman, my civilian job, started talking about the possibility of hiring some folks to send to Australia to possibly be trained as maintainers to maintain the site.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at Alan, my hubby, and I'm thinking, hey, I can still do my reserve duty. I couldn't do it when I was in Germany because of the circumstances with Berlin. But what do you think? We can bring our son with us. He can do high school down there, and our daughter was getting ready to graduate and going to start college. And
sounds like an adventure.
We're having serious conversations about Australia.
Yeah.
And the phone rings, and it's Colonel Barreto.
Oh,
and he says, I'm going to promote you to chief, which meant a 2-year commitment, I had to re-up for 2 more years. And I'm like, Australia?
Yeah,
chief.
right.
Australia? And of course, I took chief. So
sure.
In 2007, February 2007, I pinned on chief right there at the academy.
Yeah.
And but then realized I'm working for a chief. Darren Miley was the 310th Space Group. The wing hadn't stood up yet.
Right.
He was essentially the 310th Space Group command chief.
Okay.
Even though he wasn't a command chief yet because the wing wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I walked in now, Colonel Anstead is the group commander. And I walked in and I said, hey, no offense, I don't want to work for another chief. I need a job.
Oh.
And he said, how about the MSG, the Mission Support Group? We need somebody.
Oh, I see.
We need somebody up there. Who better to know how to take care of 1 Charlie 6s than a 1 Charlie 6? He said, you want it? It's yours. I said, yep. So now my UTAs were back here locally.
Nice.
Because the MSG was being built. The building was physically being built on Buckley. We were in the old DFAS building way on the other side of Old Lowry. For the first year I was with the unit. So I became the 310th Mission Support Group Chief Enlisted Manager and loved it. Best 4 years of my career. Best 4 years of my career.
Really?
In a support role.
Oh, wow.
100%. I got to see the nuts and bolts of how to take care of your people.
Yeah.
Pay, food, billeting, safety, security, right? Everything that a 1 Charlie 6 that I would have taken for granted way back in the day, I now understood the makings and the workings of it. And it was a phenomenal experience. Oh, and the
Yeah.
only reason I didn't stay, because it was 4 years. I did 4 years as a chief.
Uh-huh.
We were over at the Mission Support Group Active Duty Building, 460th at Buckley. Where
Yeah.
you go and get your ID cards.
Yeah.
And there was a promotion or a retirement ceremony of some kind. And Colonel Mazzuti, the wing has now stood
I
up.
remember her. Yeah. Yeah.
She is now the first 310th Space Wing commander.
Right.
We're a full-blown wing in our own right now. And they wanted to do some realignment with the billets and the units. And they wanted the units to match active duty.
Hmm.
And what was active duty doing at Second Swiss? They were bringing in a chief at the unit level.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he pulls me aside. It's Saturday afternoon, so the MPF part of the building is empty. So we go over there and we sit down quietly. And she says, Chief, I need your billet. I said, what? She said, I need your billet. It's an 8 Swiss billet. I still was on loan
Oh,
for
yeah.
all that time.
Forgot about that.
I was
yeah.
still sitting in the 8 Swiss billet. And
The TR billet, right? Yeah.
I was in the TR billet, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said, we need it. We're going to convert it to AGR. We want it.
Oh, wow.
So, and I'm like, and I had applied for 2 command chief positions, 302nd and 310th, and didn't make either.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go IMA. I have to be with my people. IMA is yourself.
Yeah.
You're all by yourself. You're out doing your own thing. And nope, wasn't even an option.
Right.
And I said, okay, ma'am. I guess I'll have to talk to the family and decide what I'm going to do. She said, you got 2 weeks. Tell me what you want to do. I said, okay. Well, 2 weeks later, I was on an airplane to Hawaii with my reserve unit because they went to Hickam to run their dining facility for 2 weeks. And me as the supervising chief, of course, had to have
Of course you got to go out there. Yeah, of course. Right.
My only boondoggle my whole career. And while we were at Hickam, on my phone, my BlackBerry, I hit the button, orders to retire. That was August of 2010, and then the following February of 11, I retired.
But why? What triggered that decision?
I had no place to go. They were going to take my billet. I wasn't going back to the unit. I'd already been there, done that.
So the only option they gave you was
IMA or go look for another job.
Oh man, that's
that's
a drag.
There were no other chief openings at 302nd.
Yeah.
Because a chief is a chief, right? You're a manager of managers. You are a 9 level in anything you are. You do not have to hold the AFSC.
Right.
I wanted to be around the wing. I wanted to be around the space wing. No command chief opportunities at 302nd. No command chief opportunities with 310th. That would be my next logical step, was command chief.
Yeah, sure.
And like I said, I would not go IMA. So I pulled the trigger. I said, okay. I did 4. A lot of folks don't do that. I did 4.
What year was that?
2011, February 8th of 2011, I retired.
2011, February
as a
8th.
chief. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, as a chief, and then only retired a year ago. Continued my career with Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
And I retired a year ago after 25 years with Northrop Grumman.
So oh wow.
It's been a blast, Marty. And after writing all my little notes here, and I'm like, holy crap, I got to write a book. I did some serious shit, I did some pretty neat stuff,
Well, I hope this filters down to your family. I mean,
oh, yeah.
This whole podcast started after my father passed, and I was like, I only know bits and pieces of his military service. Why didn't I ever just sit down and talk with him about it? And you just don't. I don't know why you never do. You just don't,
Yep. I will preface this by saying I could not have done any of it without the hubby.
Yeah. Nice.
He retired. We swapped roles. He became the house dad. I went to work. So, but I was just remembering the other first from the mission control from Sibbers.
Yeah. What? Oh, it's hard to see.
Okay.
Oh,
this is.
Oh, that looks familiar.
Space Warning Crew marks a milestone. First ever
Oh,
all reserve
yeah, yeah,
crew,
yeah. I remember
of which
that.
Staff Sergeant Marty Smith was one.
Ah.
And that's the article that they ran in the Frontier Front Range
Yeah, that's
Flyer.
why that looks familiar.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
very
then I
nice.
found this today. Let me get it. I had stolen this off of our teletype with the name. This is the actual piece of paper.
Yeah.
That's crew change, 8 Swiss all reserve crew.
Ah, look at
It says it
that.
right there. Total force, Commander Barreto, Deputy Mindoro,
Yeah, yeah.
Systems Crew Chief, Senior Master Sergeant Sturgis, Mission Crew Chief, Chief Baggett, myself, Brennan, Chris Brennan,
Chris Brennan. Yeah, yeah.
Staff Sergeant Smith, Senior Airman Newman,
Newman. Yeah.
who became a major, Senior Airman Baumgartner,
Right.
Mike Baumgartner, who's probably a chief now, Brian Schmidt, Dave Cedillo, Cindy Swayze,
Oh God, look at that. Yeah.
Master Sergeant Heyer, Wilds, Tech Sergeant Denman, and Tech Sergeant Roman.
Wow.
There it
That's
is.
a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
that's
it.
awesome.
And then I found one other thing I want to show you. I had the opportunity when I was at the Senior NCO Academy.
All right.
Okay. Our keynote speaker was 14th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Gerald Murray.
Okay.
And when we were lined up as a class for a question and answer session with him, I got to find my little question here. Hold on a second. We were told if you want to ask a question of the chief to write it down. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I wrote it down. Here we go. Sorry. And when you're called upon, you can read it. Now, because I went there as a senior, I was the highest ranking reservist in the class.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
you had active duty Army, active duty Navy.
Yeah.
You had Air Force Guard, and you had Air Force Reserves, and we had a few foreign nationals and Coasties too. We had Coast Guard.
Right.
This was my question. Now, keep in mind, this is April of 2005.
Okay.
Chief Murray, and you had to say who you were.
Yeah. Right.
Master Sergeant Michelle Zayatz. I'm from the 310 Space Group at Schriever. Can you please comment on the increased role of the Guard and Reserve in the current ops tempo, and what is being done to correct the benefit inequities that they face when they return home?
Oh.
Our people were not getting medical.
Yeah.
Our people were not getting BAH. Our people were not getting hazard pay.
Right. Right.
95% of airlift and refueling in theater was being done by Guard and Reserve.
Right. They did a lot. Yeah.
2005.
Yeah.
We had guys, Ernie Escarcega is a good example, came on orders right after September 11th, spent 5 to 6 years on orders.
Yeah.
Right? But if you were a traditional guardsman or a traditional reservist and you went on orders, you got nothing except base pay.
Right.
So he danced.
Like
There's
they all
500
do.
enlisted in this room, and he danced. Never, we're looking into that, senior. I promise, we're looking into it. It's great.
Yeah.
So at the end of his briefing, Q&A, they say if anybody would like to go and have a picture or meet the chief personally, he'll be over in the vestibule. Boom! I'm out of my chair and I'm first in line.
Oh yeah.
And I said, Chief, you didn't answer my question.
Oh.
He said, I know, senior. We're really working on it. We really, really are. I promise you we're working on it. I said, something's got to be done. I got guys that are activating for Desert Shield, Iraqi Freedom, Enduring Freedom, that are not getting the same benefits as their active duty counterparts. This isn't right to change. I got you, he says. Okay, 5 months later, July of 2005, me and the late Rob Mailer were training in Atlanta, and Conrad Dawes was up for NCO of the Year with Air Reserve Personnel headquarters. His package was there. He was a nominee to be NCO of the Year across all of AFRC.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Mailer and I had packed our mess dress knowing it would coincide with our trip out there to Robbins.
Perfect.
We went down for the banquet. And guess who I ran into? Chief Murray. And somebody actually took a picture of us talking.
Ah, look at that. Yeah.
He's the keynote speaker.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
4 or 5 months after I've accosted him and told him you're not doing enough for reservists. And after he did the keynote, and Conrad won, Chief Dawes won that award. That's probably
Yeah.
what set him on his career towards Chief. As soon as it's over, he comes down and I'm beelining it for him. And he found me. He said, I saw your hair. I remember you from Maxwell, right? Senior NCO Academy back in March. And you asked me that really tough question. Yes, Chief, I did. Yes, Chief, I did. And
Yeah.
he said, and by then things had started to change, not considerably, but before he left his tenure in 2006, we got medical, we got dental, we got BAH, and we got hazard pay.
Nice.
So
Wow.
it made it. Now I'm not saying I made the difference, but that was a pretty unique moment
Sure.
in my career to
Yeah.
be able to meet and have him. I also met number 5, Gaylor,
Yeah.
Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, number 5, Gaylor. Met
Okay.
him at Buckley. I've got his autograph, but yeah,
Wow.
really cool. So, all right, one more thing, and then I'm gonna stop. I promise. When I retired from the reserves,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were at my ceremony, but
I'm sure I was, but I'm
yeah,
not sure.
yeah,
So,
it was at the DoubleTree in Aurora.
okay.
My daughter wrote something and she read it at the ceremony. And now that
Right.
I'm fully retired, it really sinks in.
Oh, yeah.
So if I can, with your permission, you can
Well, it's your
send this out
interview,
if
of
it's
course.
been going too long.
No.
Hopefully I get through without crying. But this is
Okay.
dedicated to my daughter Stephanie. She got up on the podium and read this in front of everybody in the room at the retirement ceremony.
Wow.
Now retired, my mother will rearrange her office every weekend. That's the title of it. My mother's life has been carved from the rock of routine. Early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable. She knows that because I taught her that. Phone calls in the middle of the night that woke us, not with the fear that it was being made from a hospital somewhere, but with annoyance that somewhere in a life far removed from mine, everything must be going horribly wrong. And in a panic, everyone decided, call the chief. At least that was what I imagined at age 6 and 12 and 16, for I had no notion of what was being said on the other end of the phone. I filled the holes with secrets I imagined that seemed as distant as ships in a harbor, carrying questions long left unasked, and a hold full of moments long set adrift. But now there was no routine for my mother to be early to, no phone calls at 2 a.m., no secrets to be imagined, and questions to go unasked, no moments left to be missed. Now I imagine my mother having silent conversations with a wall full of memories. I imagine she will ask them which way she ought to move her desk this Saturday, even though she changed it all around last weekend. Now she can learn what it means to be bored on a Saturday afternoon, just like the rest of us have been doing for the last 29 years. That's how long it had taken me, was 29 to get my
Wow.
24 in.
Yeah.
Maybe she will give up and turn that office into a puzzle room with no internet connection, but probably not. Instead, I imagine she will just keep on in that routine, moving the furniture from this half of the room to the other because retired is not a word that my mother knows how to pronounce. Isn't that great?
That's
Isn't that great?
wonderful. Yeah, sure,
Sure.
sure.
She's a writer. She's a writer, so it came.
Oh,
right
is she?
to her.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yes.
Ah,
Anyway,
you
yeah.
did it.
Wow.
You didn't cry or anything, so
I didn't cry. Yeah.
you got a
yeah,
little
good,
steamy,
good.
but yeah, that's touching.
Yeah.
That's very touching.
It was wonderful. She got a standing ovation for that too. At the
Oh, that's great.
And then I have it written in. It's in a frame. This is just the copy I kept.
Yeah,
with me,
of course.
but
Yeah,
I have
that's
it over
perfect
here in
for
a frame.
framing. Yeah, perfect for
yeah.
framing. So.
Yeah. Well done, Steph. Here's to you. So.
Did we get it all?
Yeah, I think we did, but I didn't give you many chances to ask me many questions. So.
Well, I don't think there's many questions to ask. Yeah. God, what a trip! I appreciate you for coming out here and taking us on that journey. That's wonderful.
It was, and I do every bit of it again, except the one thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't go to the Army recruiter at the beginning.
Well, you had to do that piece to get all the rest.
I had to, exactly. Without that, I wouldn't be sitting where I am today with all my wall of memories and accomplishments and friends.
Oh man, that's
Patriots
wonderful.
And other veterans. Thank you for your service as well, senior.
Well, Chief Master Sergeant Michelle Zayatz, it's been an honor and a privilege to talk to you today about your career. Thanks for taking us all on that journey. That's wonderful.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to go on the journey and share it with you. Thank you so much, Marty. It's been a lot of fun.